So we're here at Monte Alban, and I'm going to have to say that it is a lot bigger in person. I mean, I've seen so many pictures of this place, so many videos of this place, but when you come and actually have to walk it, and your legs are tired after walking through a quarter of it, you get a lot of more appreciation for how absolutely huge this place is. What if the ruins of Nephi's temple and city have been hiding in plain sight this whole time? Monte Alban is one of the oldest capital cities in the Americas, built high above the valley of Oaxaca in Mexico. Historians call it the ancient home of the Zapotec religious elite. But could it actually be the sacred gathering place Nephi built after leaving Jerusalem? With radiocarbon dates showing it was built exactly when the Book of Mormon says Nephi built his capital, layout and size, an east-facing two-column temple with an altar and cisterns much like those of Solomon's temple, as well as a location fitting well with that required by the internal model of the Book of Mormon. Everything seems to point toward this being a very believable answer to the question, could this be Nephi's city and temple? So we're here at Monte Alban, and I'm going to have to say that it is a lot bigger in person. I mean, I've seen so many pictures of this place, so many videos of this place, but when you come and actually have to walk it, and your legs are tired after walking through a quarter of it, you get a lot of more appreciation for how absolutely huge this place is. These circular things?
Yeah, were they pillars?
They're pillars.
Wow.
Yeah, this was a covered walk.
You telling him about the Book of Mormon? Yes. El Libro de Mormon? He's sharing the gospel. He's doing missionary work.
Some of the architecture is.
Anybody do a representation of what it could have been here?
Yeah, online. When we get back to the apartment, we'll find it. Because there are, in fact, even in the visitor center, I think so there was a couple drawings that showed these like with the roofs over them. So to have them having writing at 500 BC, to have them have astronomical alignments at 500 BC, I think this was the predecessor. Like this is, they're bringing in all the technology.
This is better than any of the pictures.
Yeah, this is epic.
This is like, to me, this feels so, I don't know, way more powerful than Teotihuacan yesterday, even though that was cool.
No.
I feel like
it's like New York versus Temple Square.
I feel like I'm in a temple, and I feel like as I look at this, I can see what they were doing. I could see them. I could see teachers. I could see Nephi and all these people sitting on the steps and Nephi teaching them there. I could see Jacob, his brother, over on these other teaching things here. I could see people sitting under here. They're getting teachings. This was not just their temple. This was their classroom.
Yeah.
This is where they came to learn.
Yeah.
And then you know what? They went out and ran around on the field.
Yeah, the kids.
I think you can see it in the artwork. There's not a lot of sacrifices in Monte Alban, whereas like Teotihuacan, toward the later times of it, they're sacrificing people like crazy, and then the Aztec, of course, are next level. I'm not even sure if they've found a single proven sacrifice in Monte Alban. Wow. Yeah, even though, you know, they definitely didn't, you got to think of the Book of Mormon narrative, because they are getting corrupt probably within the first 200 years. And then by 350 years after Nephi arrives, 400 for sure, it's so wicked, and they've ingrained and mixed so much with the Lamanites that Mosiah I is like, we're out of here. Or even if you're going to say up in Guatemala City where everything is jungle, well, why couldn't they just leave? How could you see approaching armies like King Noah did, and how could they keep you from leaving if there's so much jungle that it'd be so easy to just disappear? But up here you can kind of see where it's like, oh, this is actually very arid, so the Middle Eastern crops will grow pretty well in the dry season. And then it's also treeless, so it'd be a lot easier for them to station kind of armies to keep people in the valley, and also easier for them to see approaching armies, you know, coming, where you couldn't have that happen like down in Guatemala.
Tell me what that is again.
So this is called the Observatory, Building J, and it faces exactly toward those stars I was telling you that mark the spring and fall festivals, right? And it points right toward the solar tube that I told you about that marks the spring or the fall and winter equinox.
All these levels, blocked off. Oh, yeah. This whole, every
Windows.
single one of these are in underground structures like this. Every single one of these.
Okay, here we go.
Whoa! Are you kidding me? What the? They're not only living quarters, they're art. It's not just living quarters, it's art.
So I've seen so many videos of Monte Alban, but it's rare for any of them to really show these little corners. Anyway, it's kind of cool. You can see all of these that they have replicas inside of the visitor center. Here are the originals. high and low. The entire building is covered in these murals. And I know that they think that these are captives. Even though the original archaeologists kind of interpret them as dancers.
I'd like to imagine when they were built fresh.
Oh God, with plaster on top of them. Yeah, can you imagine this place? Completely plastered and painted. A lot of the representations, they think that it was red. So I think that they find some original plaster with some red paint on it, which makes them think, yeah, this was all red, painted red. I've often wondered, like a lot of times, you know, it's all been lost to time, but they think that it was called Monte Alban, maybe after a family that were named the Albans, you know, but that it's called the White Hill, and maybe that's what the natives called it.
I feel like I'm at the temple, but I can talk freely, that I could just say things, and if I want to go and run, I can go run and just see the sun, and
Yeah.
it just feels like a temple.
Yeah.
It feels like the temple.
It's steep. Pretty much all of these pyramids in Mesoamerica are insanely steep. But look at this. I'm only 2/3 of the way up. And the view already is amazing. You see the clouds on those mountains. The Temple of
Did
Solomon.
Christ come here?
I don't know. I don't know if they came to the land of Nephi. But they definitely have a mythology that they gave to the early Spanish chroniclers that Quetzalcoatl came here.
He came here.
Yeah.
He came here. He touched down here.
I mean, it's totally the religious center of all of southern Mexico,
He
really.
touched down here. No question.
Christ?
Christ touched down here. There's no question.
We've got 2 columns, right? They're gone right now, but you can actually see where they were sitting.
Is that and that?
Yeah, well, you see right up in front of the entrance, they're like 2 columns. It's 2 rooms, east-west, huge altar right here. Not only does it face exactly east, like you guys can see the exact center of it goes right over that solar tube. So they are very interested in knowing exactly when the spring and fall equinoxes are, right? Because that's what the solar tube tells you.
This is exactly 90 degrees east. He's
Yeah,
pointing
yeah.
exactly.
So, I mean, there's hardly anything like that.
Total right up there.
And this all dates to exactly the right date. There's no other east-facing 2-room, 2-column temple facing just like that. There's a massive altar right in the front of it with astronomical alignments, not only with the spring and fall solstice, but with the rising of Capella,
Yeah.
which is totally important in the Canaanite and Jewish religious system. Right, I mean, this place is like spot on. The old temple was even bigger and was shaped just like the Temple of Solomon's courtyard, right, with 2 columns, 2 temples.
And facing.
And then they built the new one after the same pattern, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All of them, 2 columns. And then these right here, you know how the original temple had 10 movable altars? Do you remember that?
No.
And then not only that, these right here are cisterns. Like in Jerusalem, they still have cisterns next to the basin, where the basin was, because that's where they capture all the rainwater to fill up the basin.
Yeah.
So I was like, what are the chances that you have an east-facing 2-column, 2-room temple with altars,
cisterns.
with things that look like these movable altars as well, with cisterns? Okay, and not only that, this building right here, that tube I was telling you about before, right? That captures the equinox,
Once a
so they know
year.
exactly when the spring and fall equinoxes are, right? So that they can base their spring and fall festivals off of that. And then this faces exactly, it's like 40 degrees north, so you know exactly when Capella rises, which is right around the times of the Day of Atonement. And then it fits spatially, because we're exactly north of the narrow strip of wilderness of the Rio Balsas, and where the head of the River Sidon would have been, and the land of Zarahemla, and the radiocarbon dating matches perfectly. And we have these other places, like where we were talking about that we'd go visit, where another group came in and built a city, right, at like 150 BC, like we'd expect from Zenith, and it only lasts for like 70 years and then gets destroyed. There's a Mormon, this famous place that all the Nephites knew, right, because they can get all their lumber, and that's all the water from the valley comes there. That's the headwaters of all the main rivers that come through here. Like this site, anyway, if you look at what we're seeing down there with the 2 columns, and I mean, just picture in your mind, like that's what Solomon's temple looked like, and it wasn't that big, right? And it had 2 rooms and 2 columns, and it probably did have stairs. A lot of people think that the altars didn't have stairs because it says they're supposed to be ramps. Who knows whether they kept that rule from Deuteronomy or not, but it's only the main altar that had that rule. Most likely the temple itself did have stairs, but I mean, I picture it just like they had like all these mini temples around here that are patterned after the main temple.
I feel like I'm in a temple. This was not just their temple, this was their classroom.
Yeah.
This is where they came to learn. Look at this site. You tell me. You tell me this isn't the temple of Nephi. You give me another site that has all of these components and tell me that that's the temple of Nephi. Christ touched down.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question. Other sheep, these were many of his sheep. Okay, so literally we are at Nephi's temple. I'm convinced this is Nephi's temple. The way that you can know this is you got to come here. You got to experience it. You got to have your own personal revelation, your own personal witness. But for me, this is Nephi's temple.